Business is all about making connections. But some connections are easier to make than others. With a CNN partner hotel, the world is always at your fingertips. CNN partner hotels, connected to your world.
I'm Max Foster at Buckingham Palace in London. This is CNN.
Hello and welcome to our viewers joining us from all around the world. I'm Jim Sciutto in Washington, and you're watching The Brief. Just ahead this hour, President Trump says he will continue down the diplomatic route on Iran after meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu here in Washington. An exclusive interview offering a rare glimpse at the recent protests and crackdown inside Iran. A photographer who witnessed deadly street battles tells me exactly what she saw. And the U.S. reopens airspace over El Paso, Texas, after an unprecedented closure apparently triggered by Pentagon tests of a laser weapon for drones. That story and plenty more coming up. We begin here in Washington, D.C., where President Trump met with the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. Top of mind, once again, Iran. The two leaders discussed the ongoing nuclear talks. Trump posted afterward on social media saying, quote, "There was nothing definitive reached other than I insisted that negotiations with Iran continue to see whether or not a deal can be consummated." The Trump-Netanyahu meeting comes as Iran's leaders mark the anniversary of the revolution that brought them into power. In 1979, massive protests turned into an uprising that ended the U.S.-backed monarchy. Now, almost 50 years later, the Ayatollah-led order is clinging to power, launching a deadly crackdown on protesters calling for the end of this regime. Iran's president is apologizing for the crackdown, saying the government was finally ready to listen. Earlier, Iranian authorities had blamed the unrest on so-called terrorists. Those demonstrations began in December, fueled by a cratering economy. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has acknowledged that thousands of Iranians have been killed in those protests. However, he did not take responsibility or blame those on his own forces. Instead, he blamed President Trump, who he says encouraged the unrest by promising military support. One U.S.-based human rights organization places the death toll at more than 6,400. CNN cannot independently verify the exact number of dead. Photojournalist Yalda Moayeri has witnessed the arrest in Iran herself, documenting protests and funerals of those killed with her camera. Moayeri has also had to grapple with the country's digital blackout, which impacted our own interview with her. On top of all of this, she says authorities raided her apartment last week and confiscated her gear. I began our interview by asking Moayeri about her personal safety. So first, Yalda, tell me about your safety now. I know the authorities raided your home. Do you fear you'll be arrested?
Yeah, of course. The day that they attacked my flat, I was sleeping, and it was very early in the morning. I don't know why, but I was really shocked. They took all of my equipment, all the photos that I have taken in these 25 years as a photojournalist, and I'm not feeling safe at all. I'm very nervous.
Tell me about what you witnessed during the protests. What did you see and hear?
The crowd that I saw was I've never seen such a crowd in these 25 years that I'm working as a photojournalist. It was incredible. A huge number of people, hundreds, thousands of people were on the street, and groups of people like family members, all family members, even the children, the babies, the elderly, everyone were there. People started to chant the slogans. People tore down the traffic signs, and they wanted to lock the streets. The drivers supported them by honking. They started to shoot a lot of tear gases and sound bomb, and it was a lot. I think it was one tear gas for every person. I couldn't really believe it. And the people went back again. People started to set fire on a police car, and people set fire to the buildings that was belonging to the government or the regime, or some iconic places like the religious places.
Did you see security forces shoot protesters as well?
There was a building that was belonging to Basij militia, and people started to set fire on a car just in front of the building. And they suddenly started to shoot from the roof of the building. A lot of snipers were on the top of the building, on top of the roofs.
You had a family member, a relative, who died in the protests as well.
They shoot him and they killed him, and it took like 1 week that they could find his body, because, as you know, that there were a lot of bodies that nobody knows where are they exactly.
And that was the funeral, the pictures of the funeral you shared with us.
This is something that happened to my family too. I mean, this is very close. I don't know any people, any family who do not have any person, I mean, among the people who have died. And all of us are mourners right now.
Yeah. What photos that you took do you most want to share with the world?
The photo of the girl who is standing in front of the police car, and she is showing victory, she is happy. This feeling of the people when they could get something or they could get an achievement.
The people you talk to now there, and yourself, what are your feelings now? Is all the hope gone, the hope of that moment?
Terrible. One of the saddest time in our history. I'm 44 years old. I've never experienced such a feeling in my life. I've never been such a hopeless person in my life. And all the people that I'm talking to them, people in the streets, people, I mean, my friends, everyone, people are so hopeless, so sad. And this is the main question that they are asking each other when we are, get together. The main question is, what can we do? What we have to do?
The president of Iran publicly apologized today. He said that he was ashamed. What's your reaction to hearing that apology?
Nothing. He's not important. He's just, in all of these protests, you couldn't hear any slogans against him, because people know that he's nothing. He cannot do anything, and nobody's going to make him responsible.
Well, Yalda, I hope you stay safe. Please tell us what happens next, because I know you have real fear now that you could be arrested at any time.
I am not important at all. 100,000 of young people who were the age of my children, they died. Yeah. Why should I scare?
Well, you're very brave, and we appreciate you speaking to us. Thank you so much, and please be safe.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Well, as those protesters in Iran continued to suffer, visiting the U.S. today, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, with discussions about what may happen next in Iran. President Trump has pledged to press ahead with negotiations, despite Netanyahu warning last week that Tehran, quote, cannot be trusted. In addition to Iran, the U.S. and Israeli leaders discussed Gaza and the broader Middle East. Joining me now is Daniel Ben-Haim, former U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Arabian Peninsula Affairs. Good to have you.
Good to be here.
So first, as you listen to Yalda there, Where do these protesters stand now? Were those protests a lost cause, in effect?
You know, I think that was as pure and powerful an expression of the aspirations of the Iranian people as you're going to hear. Mm-hmm. The problem is that the protesters, as brave and remarkable as they are up against a government that is really willing to kill to stay in power and has as many as 1 million forces. Yeah. And I'm sad to say that our president called Iranians into the street and asked them to seize state institutions without having a plan to deal with the predictable aftermath of that, which was that they would be killed in the streets in the way that you described.
So where does that leave negotiations now? The president, as you heard us say there, has said, listen, nothing definitive yet. Mm-hmm. I'm still going down the negotiation path. Is that a worthwhile path? I mean, can the U.S. reach a deal with this regime that just carried out this awful crackdown?
Well, I think President Trump has 3 pretty bad choices. Having taken that moment when the world was inspired by these protesters to tweet that they should go into the streets, he can basically follow through and use force. The problem with that is that there's no clear way to connect ends and means, and to say that if you use force, you're going to help people like Yalda, or you're going to meaningfully change the situation on the ground. The second thing he can do is diplomacy, which requires him to cut a deal with the very people who killed people in the streets. And that deal is probably not going to happen at the point of a gunboat if it's going to be as big and ambitious as President Trump would like it to be, including things beyond nuclear issues. Yeah. And the third is to do nothing and look foolish. So there really are a series of tough choices, and I think Netanyahu came to town and was trying to advocate among those choices to basically say, don't cut a nuclear-only deal, which has been his position for a long time, and then if you do decide to strike, as you may well have to, and Trump signaled its diplomacy or war in a pretty significant way, then I would imagine that the second part of his message was make sure to go after the ballistic missiles, which are Iran's last remaining real deterrent threat, and which have meaningfully reconstituted since that war that Israel and Iran fought last June.
There's a lot of reporting, including CNN's, that President Trump does not want a protracted war, and that concern was one thing that held him off from striking in the midst of the protests. Is there such a thing as a clean and quick military operation by the U.S., perhaps with Israel, that is short and sweet? I hate to use that phrasing, but that would fit the president's desires?
Well, I think part of what's happened is after you saw the seizure of Maduro in Venezuela and the sort of single night of U.S. bombing to deal with this nuclear program, the president, I think, is kind of inflamed with this idea of these sort of limited military actions. Yeah. The problem is there's only so much you can really do from the sky. You're talking about a country of 90 million people with maybe 1 million security forces, and you can do damage from the sky, but you can't create a new political reality that way. So there are things that they could do that would be symbolic and probably where they could manage the escalation, but I would have a real question about what those things actually achieve.
There was some daylight between the U.S. and Israel prior to the previous U.S. strikes on Iran, and of course Israel had done the majority of those strikes, and yet they came together and they were in lockstep. Do you see this daylight thinning at some point, that the U.S. and Israel end up on the same page?
You know, it's always a question as to what's real here. The optics of this meeting were totally strange. This was a 2.5-hour meeting. Sometimes these meetings seem to happen exclusively in front of the press. This one, there was no press spray and just a tweet and a statement from the two leaders that were indeed fairly different. So it would suggest that there was daylight. But I never want to jump to conclusions, because I think we saw during the bombing of Iran over the summer that there may have been more coordination than we realized. So it sure looks like daylight, but I have a degree of humility about what's going on behind the scenes.
Reasonable skepticism. Daniel Ben-Haim, thanks so much for joining again.
Thank you.
Now to a fiery hearing on Capitol Hill. The U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi issuing testimony before the House Judiciary Committee, which then erupted into shouting matches with lawmakers. Listen to her exchange with Congressman Jamie Raskin, a former constitutional law professor and top Democrat on that committee.
You can let her filibuster all day long, but not on our watch. Not on our time. No way. And I told you about that, Attorney General, before you started.
You don't tell me.
Yeah, I did tell you, because we saw what you did in the Senate.
You're a lawyer, not even a lawyer.
There were worse ones than that. Lawmakers focused heavily on the Justice Department's handling of the Epstein files. From, we should note, Democrats and Republicans, the Attorney General said this to the Epstein survivors.
I am deeply sorry for what any victim has been through, especially as a result of that monster.
Paula Reed has the details of that contentious hearing.
This guy has Trump derangement syndrome.
In her first appearance before House lawmakers, Attorney General Pam Bondi played to an audience of one.
He is the most transparent president in the nation's history. And none of them asked Merrick Garland over the last 4 years one word about Jeffrey Epstein. How ironic is that? You know why?
Lawmakers repeatedly pressed her on the Department of Justice's handling of the Epstein files and the impact on survivors.
Will you turn to them now and apologize for what your Department of Justice has put them through with the absolutely unacceptable release of the Epstein files and their information?
Congresswoman, you sat before Merrick Garland sat in this chair twice.
Attorney General Bondi,
No, can I finish my answer?
No, I'm going to reclaim my time because I asked you a specific question that I would like you to answer, which is, will you turn to the survivors?
Republican Thomas Massie grilled her on redaction mistakes that he says exposed survivors and protected perpetrators.
These are the documents that we need, that you're holding on to and over-redacting because they have the names of the men who are implicated. How do we know? Because the survivors gave testimony to the FBI.
But Bondi came armed with personalized insults for any lawmaker that pressed her on an issue she did not want to discuss.
And I told you about that, Attorney General, before you started.
You don't tell me.
Yeah, I did tell you because we saw what you did in the Senate.
You're a lawyer, not even a lawyer.
And the hearing swiftly devolved into a series of shouting matches.
I want to answer the question.
No,
Your
you're going to answer
theatrics
the
are
question the way I
ridiculous.
asked it.
Chairman Jordan, I'm not going to get in the gutter with these people. If they could maintain their composure, this isn't a circus. This is a hearing.
Most Republicans use their time to pivot back to Bondi's preferred topics, immigration and violent crime.
Overwhelmingly elected President Trump, securing our border and enforcing our immigration laws.
Bondi was also pressed on how she has used the traditionally independent agency to pursue the president's political adversaries.
Trump orders up prosecutions like pizza, and you deliver every time.
Our thanks to Paula Reed for that story. We also have an update on the U.S. Justice Department's case attempted against 6 Democratic lawmakers. A federal grand jury has declined to indict them for posting this video urging service members to disobey any illegal orders they might receive. This rare rejection from a grand jury rebukes the Trump administration's efforts to paint those lawmakers as dangerously and criminally undermining the president's authority. Still ahead, a strong January jobs report after a dismal 2025 for job seekers. We're going to have economist Paul Krugman to give his take, not just on those jobs numbers, but the broader economy and trade.
Explore Africa with CNN, where 54 nations create the fabric of this rich continent. This is really complex. Discover business.
The biggest economic trends impacting the continent.
Nobody has ever done this in Africa.
Clearly, you're seeing something here.
Nature and culture.
I love music. My music, this is everything.
And the stories shaping Africa today.
Exported to markets around the world. The next 5 years, what excites you the most?
I think the digital economy is very, very exciting.
I had this compelling need to do something for my people, for my continent.
It's very, very important for us to tell our own story.
The energy is amazing. Feels so good to be here.
Today, we live in an unpredictable environment and news races around the world at breakneck speed.
It's a noble
profession.
Why do you keep us out?
We want to keep you safe.
We're war correspondents.
My show brings you the latest news and top news makers.
Can you tell me exactly about what's happening right now?
If we don't learn from some of the things in our past, then we're due to repeat them.
We also dive below the headlines.
If we are not blinded by hate, we can teach others humanity.
What does it feel like to be slapped with a 50% tariff? That's not a negotiation, Ambassador.
Any questions?
Yeah. What were you thinking when I was trying to get the truth out of you and you were obfuscated?
Well, I thought that actually you saw the contradiction.
It's crucial we make sense of what's happening.
Why do you want your country's future to be decided by US military intervention?
And fully understand what's at stake.
If you can double down on that, amen.
Amanpour, weekdays on CNN.
CNN World Sport.
Non-stop action year-round.
I have a lot of things to give to the football. All the major events.
I love where the game is going right now.
What does it take for me to be even better?
And tournaments.
The emotions sometimes are impossible to control.
The latest highlights.
Women's sport is having a moment that it should have always had.
And exclusive interviews with your favorite coaches and players.
We're going to keep this thing rolling.
You rock.
Don't miss
CNN World Sport. Only on CNN.
Welcome back. In today's business breakout, a mostly lower day on Wall Street. Stocks fell amid concerns that today's stronger than expected jobs report might lead to fewer Fed rate cuts this year. Today's report showed the U.S. added some 130,000 jobs last month. That's the strongest month of job gains in more than a year, due to, in particular, robust hiring in the healthcare sector. The unemployment rate ticked lower to 4.3%. However, there was bad news as well. Newly revised numbers show that last year's job market was much weaker than originally thought. A mere 180,000 jobs created in the entire calendar year of 2025. Speaking of jobs, shares of U.S. financial services firms fell for a second day on AI disruption fears. A newly released AI tax planner could impact businesses and lead to layoffs. We're seeing a lot of that. Trade uncertainty also front and center. EU leaders meet Thursday to discuss how to become less dependent on the U.S. economically amid President Trump's ongoing trade war and military threats. Joining me now, Nobel Prize winning economist Paul Krugman. Paul, good to have you on. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Glad to be on.
So the monthly number was good, close to double what economists had predicted, but 2025 just looks awful, right down from 584,000 jobs to 180,000 jobs. What does this show you? I mean, does it show that the job market has bottomed out?
No, I mean, monthly numbers are extremely noisy. In fact, if you read the BLS report, it's 130,000 is the central estimate, but it actually says that the 90% confidence range is from 7,700 to 250,000. Right? This is. Wow. This is not we know that this just lost sampling error, and there's all kinds of other things. So the real range is bigger than that. So monthly numbers, people like me have spent years and years saying, no, don't obsess about the monthly numbers. The year-over-year change is really pretty bad. If we take the first year of the second Trump administration, it's way down. It's 360,000 jobs from January to January. It's 95% of the monthly job gain was healthcare and social services. More than 100% of the 1 year job gain, such as it was healthcare and social services. So this does not look like a cyclically strong economy. This is something. Exactly the things that are not the focus of policy are continuing to grow, but the rest of it is really pretty bad.
How about the broader economy? Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, likes to say that we're at the beginning of a big pickup here. You hear that from a lot of Trump administration officials. They say tax cuts are going to kick in. AI growth is going to have a broader economic effect. Do you see any hard indicators that they're right about that?
No, I mean, what we do see is that Bessent seems to imagine, he says construction employment is booming, and it's actually not at all. So we really are not seeing a lot of business investment aside from data centers. And the data centers, one of the things that people are not noticing is that overwhelmingly the chips, the computer equipment, and so on is imported. So it doesn't actually boost the U.S. economy. Maybe, never know, the business cycle forecasts are are basically wrong almost half the time. But there's nothing in there aside from sheer faith that surely we've cut taxes, that must be doing great stuff. You don't see it at all in the data.
How about the costs of tariffs? Because it feels like the last year, everyone's been trying to calculate exactly what the costs are to economic growth, exactly how much individual Americans are paying in increased prices for things, and also how it's factoring into business decision making. Is it clear to you yet what the tariffs impact is?
Well, the pricing side, people exaggerate. The actual increase in tariff rates is something like 10 percentage points on imports, which are about 11% of GDP. So what you would have expected is something like a 1% or a little bit more additional on consumer prices relative to what would otherwise have happened. And that's actually what micro data-based estimates, big data-based estimates of what's been happening to consumer prices show. There's lots of other stuff going on, but if you were predicting an inflation apocalypse, you weren't really looking at the numbers. The numbers say there should be some significant but not overwhelming increase in prices, and that's kind of what we're seeing in the data. In terms of the economy as a whole, again, if you were saying this is going to cause a severe recession, that was never something that the actual models would have predicted. It was more kind of a gut feeling, and people's guts were wrong if that's what they felt. What we do see, and I do think this is tariff related, is this weird frozen labor market. Not a lot of layoffs, but very little hiring. Yeah. And so, it's been okay if you have a job, but if you're looking for a job, if you've lost your job or you're a young person starting out, long-term unemployment is very high. The time it takes to find a job is very, very long, and that's presumably uncertainty. Nobody knows. We don't know if the Supreme Court's going to throw out 70% of the tariffs. We don't know, what Trump has been recently speculated that he might want to cancel the North American Free Trade Agreement. So I think that uncertainty is really weighing on business.
You're now predicting a divorce, as it were, between the U.S. and major trading partners. And listen, we hear them saying it out loud, right? I mean, we hear Canadian leaders, we hear European leaders saying we have to find growth elsewhere, and you're seeing that in some of the deals that they're making with India, China, et cetera. Are we seeing an impact of that yet on the U.S.? I imagine your view is that over time, that's going to impact U.S. trade and economic growth.
Yeah, you see some of it, but not a whole lot. And the truth is that, first of all, long-term trading relationships takes, in some cases, decades to really build them. So to expect everything to turn on a dime is unrealistic. And a lot of the U.S. tariffs are on things that we're just not going to produce in the U.S. We're not going to start producing clothing in the United States again unless tariffs go to several 100%. Right. So you're seeing only modest changes in trade. Actually, a lot of what's going on is a reshuffling. Our imports from China have fallen, but our imports from other places have gone up. So, and as for the rest, it is really hard, especially, by the way, it's interesting that Canada is most forthright in saying we need to sever those ties, which is really difficult because Canada is right there. I mean, in terms of the markets, Canada is closer to the United States than it is to itself. So this is going to take a while, but the world doesn't trust the United States. Yeah. And that's going to affect us over time.
No question. I hear that in an economic context. I hear it in a national security context as well. Paul Krugman, good to have you on. Thanks so much for joining.
Thanks so much.
Checking some of today's other business headlines, McDonald's reported stronger than expected earnings after the closing bell today. The fast food giant says it is winning back customers with its lower-priced meals. It says sales are picking up across global markets, too. Consumer products giant Kraft Heinz is pausing plans to split in two. The company announced last year that it would separate its condiment brands from its struggling grocery brands, but sales have weakened further, and a spin-off has become less appealing to investors. Heineken is announcing sweeping job cuts due to weaker sales of beer. The brewing giant says it will cut as many as 6,000 jobs globally. Well, that's almost 7% of its workforce. It is also lowering its profit outlook for the year. Stay with us. Much more news after the break.
We've shared the stories of Africa's brightest stars, and now we're opening up the conversation. Raw, real, and revealing. This is African Voices.
This week, Chef Marcus Samuelsson.
You have become one of the most
visible ambassadors for Black and African cooking.
I can't just sit on the sideline and hope somebody else is going to do that.
African Voices on CNN in association with Glow. These little creatures love to relax, but they are also very hard workers. This year, a family of beavers helped restore a wetland ecosystem in the Czech Republic, doing what humans had planned and saving over $1 million. No concrete, no cost, just nature doing its thing. Be part of the movement. Find out more on cnn.com/call-to-earth in partnership with Rolex and its Perpetual Planet Initiative.
In a divided America,
where do I fit? You tell me, ask your partner.
Abby Phillip brings all sides to the table.
Can you name one thing you do differently? The hypocrisy is so rank, folks at home. Classes in session.
To talk about the issues.
Congresswoman, it is false. The answer is zero.
The policies.
What is the Democratic Party about? Can you answer that question?
And the biggest debates to wrap up your day.
I hear what you're saying Trump believes in, but do you think it's a good idea?
News Night with Abby Phillip, Tuesday through Saturday on CNN.
There are amazing things that are happening all over the world, things that can make our lives better. That's the goal of my podcast, to try and find the secrets to a longer and happier and healthier life. And then we bring those secrets to you. Listen to Chasing Life wherever you get your podcasts.
Weekdays on CNN.
Tonight on 360.
The stories that matter.
This whole area is just engulfed in flames.
From a trusted voice.
We witnessed something nobody alive has ever seen before. You said that AI could wipe out half of all entry-level jobs. How soon might that happen?
A fearless eyewitness.
We've just gotten a red alert to go down to a bomb shelter.
Every night makes sense of the world.
How do you make the case that USAID's previous mission was in the United States' national interest?
Anderson Cooper 360. Weekdays on CNN.
Here's a breakdown of what you can find out front. The real question comes down to, where is the supreme leader? Where are we when it comes to inflation? Direct, in-depth, and raw. Do you think that Pam Bondi is hiding something?
Hell yeah, I think she's hiding something.
Getting ahead of the biggest stories and giving you context you won't find anywhere else. We are in an unprecedented moment. Do you like capitalism?
No, I have many critiques of capitalism.
Aaron Burnett out front. Weekdays on CNN.
I'm Isa Suarez in London, and this is CNN.
Welcome back to The Brief. I'm Jim Sciutto, and here are the international headlines we're watching today. U.S. President Donald Trump called Wednesday's White House meeting with Israel's prime minister, quote, very good. Trump says he told Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that he will continue pursuing diplomacy with Iran. He added that if a deal with Iran cannot be done, quote, we'll just have to see what the outcome will be. Emergency officials in eastern Ukraine say a Russian drone strike killed 3 toddlers and their father. The attack also wounded the children's mother, who's pregnant. The family had just arrived in town seeking a safer place to live. The town's mayor called the attack, quote, a crime that is beyond human comprehension. TMZ says it has received a letter from a person saying they know who kidnapped Nancy Guthrie. The letter asked for 1 Bitcoin in return for identifying that person. The New York Post reports that a black glove was found near Guthrie's home. It's not clear if it belongs to the same person you see there in the doorbell camera footage released by the FBI. Police say they've identified the suspect in one of Canada's deadliest mass shootings. The alleged shooter opened fire at a school in a remote mountain town on Tuesday, killing at least 6 people. The suspect's mother and stepbrother were found shot dead at their home. Prime Minister Mark Carney told families who are grieving they are not alone. Our Paula Newton has the story.
Upon arrival, there was active gunfire, and as officers approached the school, rounds were fired in their direction.
Tonight, new details about a deadly mass shooting in a small, tight-knit community in Tumbler Ridge, Canada. Mobile phone messages warned of an active shooter, describing the suspect as a woman wearing a dress with brown hair.
The alarm went off that I've never heard before, and our principal goes throughout the halls, and she's saying, people close your doors, lock down, stuff like that. I didn't I thought it was a secure and hold and something like that at first, but once things started circulating, we realized how serious it really was.
The town's high school was in lockdown, students barricading themselves in classrooms, a local journalist conveying the terror now rippling through the small town.
I talked to a concerned parent who's here waiting. He got a call from his son, who is sheltering in place in the gym, and he's just waiting to hear from his other kid, and is quite rightly nervous.
Authorities say police arrived within minutes but found 6 victims already dead at the school, at least 27 injured. The suspect, identified as 18-year-old Jesse Van Rootselaar, was also found dead in the school of a self-inflicted injury. 2 other victims, Rootselaar's mother and a sibling, were found dead at a nearby home. Police say a long gun and a modified handgun were used and disclosed that authorities were called to the suspect's home several times for mental health emergencies and firearms offenses, and they are no closer to settling on a motive.
There's been much speculation within the community regarding the relationship between the shooter and some of the victims. All of that remains part of the active and ongoing investigation.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney visibly shaken and teary-eyed, expressing the profound grief now felt right across the country.
It's obviously a very difficult day for the nation this morning. Parents, grandparents, sisters, brothers in Tumbler Ridge will wake up without someone they love. The nation mourns with you. Canada stands by you.
Authorities are now surging resources to the area, including investigative support. Local leaders describe the community as stricken as Canada enters a full week of official mourning.
Our thanks to Paula Newton for the story. Well, the airspace over El Paso, Texas, near the U.S. border with Mexico, is now open again. This after the FAA ordered its sudden closure late Tuesday. Multiple sources tell CNN that a Pentagon plan to use a counter-drone laser without coordinating with the FAA led to that shutdown. The Trump administration has claimed a Mexican cartel drone had crossed into U.S. airspace. Joining me now is transportation analyst Mary Sciutto. And Mary, first of all, that difference of explanation here is concerning, is it not? Because you want the FAA to have accurate information and for flyers to know exactly what happened here for their own safety.
Oh, absolutely. And a little coordination with the airport, with the local officials, with the airlines. I mean, that would have gone a long way. And I just have to believe in the back of my mind that it really wasn't intended to be 10 days. To take out Mexican drones, 10 hours would have made more sense. So we didn't shut down for 10 days, even after September 11, 2001. So I think there was miscommunication all the way around, but unfortunately, no one was harmed, and then the airport opened up. But this is going to continue happening because the numbers of drones, and I doubt it was just one, the numbers are just astounding coming over the border.
And listen, we've seen drones shut down airports in Europe, and European governments point blame at Russia for carrying out a shadow or a hybrid war. What is the response, right? Because I'm aware just from covering the military that some of the counter-drone measures do involve directed energy weapons, which are kind of like lasers, although not like, as you know, stuff you see in Star Wars. I mean, how do airports then protect themselves? And then how is the countermeasure not worse than the threat itself, right? If you're shutting down an airport in circumstances like this?
That's the best point of all this fiasco last night and this morning with the airport, because there are many measures being tested. You know, there's geofencing, which is electronically just keeping them out of your airport area. There's jamming, where you literally jam the signals and then the drone either lands or goes home. If they have a go home program, there's electric countermeasures, and there are companies that provide those. For example, in Israel, there are companies that provide them, and they use spoofing to confuse the drone or take over the drone, really, and then have it land in an area that's secure. And then, of course, there's the lasers, or high energy forces, which are thought to be most promising and used by the military. And, you know, they've had so many other ideas, capture nets. I mean, that's not going to work because the numbers we're talking about, there's one study that said in 6 months, something like 27,000 came over the southern border, and they counted another 60,000 on the Mexico side that didn't cross over. So this is a problem. We've got the Olympics coming up. I mean, this is going to be a problem. We'll see it more.
No question. And a lot of copycats. As always, Mary Scavo, thanks so much for walking us through it.
Thank you.
Coming up on The Brief, the daughter of pro-democracy media tycoon Jimmy Lai reacting to Hong Kong's prison sentence of 20 years for her father. My conversation with Claire Lai coming up next.
In 2017, the president of the Republic of Uzbekistan declared, "Islam is a religion of enlightenment, humanism, and tolerance." These words became the foundation for the creation of a unique project, the Islamic Civilization Center in Uzbekistan. A delegation from the center goes around the world to reclaim lost artifacts. In a short time, more than 1,000 artifacts have been returned, and another 1,000 have been donated to the center by WOSCU, philanthropists, and art dealers. The center, as a symbol of national identity, science, education, and culture, is located on 10 hectares.
I have to say congratulations to your president and to your country for having so many shedevers, exposing it here.
أقدر لفخامة رئيس جمهورية أوزبكستان على عنايته بهذا المركز.
It covers 3 floors, including 5 galleries, ranging from the pre-Islamic period, renaissances of Central Asia,
Congratulations.
and New Uzbekistan. One of the highlights is the series Whispers of Wisdom, featuring Ben Kingsley.
Join us and listen to the whispers of wisdom.
It is not just bringing back a beautiful artifact. It is recreating and reviving a spirit.
This is really amazing, and of course I encourage people to come and visit here. It's really, really impressive.
The center includes a children's museum.
It's incredible. It's mind-blowing.
As well as a library with over 200,000 manuscripts. The center houses unique artifacts, including the 7th century Mushaf of Uthman, included in the UNESCO Memory of the World Register.
رئيس السيد شوكت مضيف اهتمامه الكبير بهذا الجانب بجانب الحضارة الإسلامية.
In September 2025, the president of Uzbekistan confirms that the center will soon open its doors.
This is Uganda's Bwindi Impenetrable Forest, one of Africa's most biodiverse ecosystems, home to mountain gorillas once nearly extinct. But thanks to local heroes and communities, their numbers have risen from 300 to nearly 460, a beacon of hope for conservation. Be part of the movement. Find out more on cnn.com/call-to-earth, in partnership with Rolex and its Perpetual Planet initiative.
A Hong Kong court sentenced Jimmy Lai, the founder of pro-democracy newspaper The Apple Daily, to 20 years in prison this week. The government arrested him back in August 2020 under a national security law imposed by Beijing, accusing him of colluding with foreigners. I spoke to his daughter, Claire Lai, and began the interview by asking for her reaction to the court's sentencing.
I think on the one hand, part of me, there was half of me that was hopeful, and there was the other half that was, you know, I knew the rule of law was pretty dead in Hong Kong for a long time, and I was a bit angry about why we had to wait for due process when we already knew the result. And then when it came, there was a bit of heartbreak, but I think last time I said, you know, our father taught us to sort of take any setback with a certain degree of cheer and just to try to look ahead. And I think now the sentence is in, I hope that a political or diplomatic solution can be reached to secure my father's freedom.
You said last time we spoke that if this sentence, the sentence of 20 years, was carried out, that he might die in prison. Do you still have that fear?
Absolutely. I mean, my father is 78. The average life expectancy of a male in Hong Kong is 83. He is 5 years away from that. I mean, he doesn't have 10 years, let alone 20. And he suffers from a litany of health issues like his heart, diabetes, and so on. So, if this sentence is carried out, this is absolutely a death sentence.
When prosecutors claimed in the courtroom that his condition, despite those diseases, diabetes, etc., was stable, there was an audible laugh in the courtroom.
There was. I think it came from our family, and because actually looking at the details of what they said, I mean, they don't deny at all that he has those health issues. They claim that it's being properly managed, but there is a litany of objective evidence that prison in general is a very poor environment for managing health issues, especially prisons in Hong Kong. I mean, especially people with diabetes, and especially people who are kept in solitary as my father is.
You said that your father wrote you a letter recently and had some words of encouragement for you.
Absolutely. So I think, I'm sort of the worrier in the family, so a lot of the times my father, through his letters, he ends them with a prayer, and that's his way of comforting me. And in a recent one, he told me, he ended it with, saying, our Lord is all-seeing and all-knowing, and He knows what is good for us more than we do. And he said that he was in our Lord's hands, absolutely. And he was, there was such, you could feel such a sense of relief in knowing that, and it gave me such a great deal of comfort. And
it does seem that his faith and your faith has been really key in getting through this.
Absolutely. I mean, it's I've had a pretty easy life prior to these 5 years, and my father, he's in prison, and most days, we get to visit for maybe 24 hours a year prior to me leaving Hong Kong. So most days, the only thing that sustains him is our good Lord, and our Blessed Mother has looked after him, and our good Lord has as well, and we are just so extremely grateful and so extremely blessed that sometimes I don't know how people without the faith do it.
You mentioned you hope for a political solution, and of course President Trump planning to meet President Xi in April in Beijing. Do you hope that President Trump might ask for Jimmy Lai's freedom?
So we are extremely grateful to President Trump and his administration. President Trump himself has mentioned my father a number of times, and during the last APEC summit in Korea, it's confirmed that it was confirmed through multiple media outlets that he did bring my father up, and I think in the press briefing, he the Daily Wire asked about my father as well, and they confirmed that it was important. The issue of my father was important to this administration. The State Department also issued a very strong statement. So, I'm not an expert in foreign policy, but I do hope that this remains front and center for the President and his administration, and we are extremely grateful for all the support they have shown.
Well, we do hope that you and your family get good news soon. Thank you so much for joining the program again.
Thank you so much for having me.
In response to our interview, the Hong Kong government said the following, quote, "The Correctional Services Department has been ensuring that custodial enforcement for persons in custody, including Lai Chi-ying, that's Jimmy Lai's Chinese name, is safe, humane, appropriate, and healthy in accordance with the law." It adds that, quote, "The Hong Kong SAR government will continue to uphold its constitutional duty and steadfastly safeguard national sovereignty, security, and development interests while protecting the lawful rights and interests of Hong Kong residents and other people in Hong Kong." China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs also provided us with a statement which read in part, quote, Jimmy Lai is the principal mastermind and perpetrator behind the series of major anti-China and destabilizing Hong Kong incidents. What he has done has seriously trampled on the rule of law and social order, seriously undermined Hong Kong's prosperity and stability, and seriously challenged the bottom line of the one country, two systems principle. End of statement. At the Milan Cortina Winter Olympics, a surprise silver and gold duo topped the podium in the women's moguls, and a new king of alpine ski racing is crowned.
Did the re-election of Donald Trump play any role in your decision to resign?
Why do you need to study it? It sounds like you have the facts on your fingertips.
Great question. You continue to fight for your name to be cleared. Why?
Do you have any concerns about Elon Musk?
There really is much more that unites us as Americans than that which divides us.
A moment with huge consequences for the nation and the world.
Watch The Lead, weeknights on CNN.
Caitlin Collins is your DC source, bringing you unprecedented access to the White House.
We're live from the center of the political universe,
Capitol Hill.
My Democratic source tonight is Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren. If you don't get what you need from Congress, can you achieve what you're trying to achieve?
And beyond.
We're live on the ground in Israel tonight about the Gazans leaving. Where exactly are you suggesting that they should go?
Follow Caitlin for in-depth political coverage and analysis, and watch her on The Source, Tuesday through Saturday on CNN.
We're at a demonstration here in Tokyo where people are protesting Japan's immigration law revision. As you can tell by the crowds of people around me, it's put a strain on resources and local communities. I'm in Hanamaki Higashi, a high school known for its elite baseball team. This is no nursing home. It's Japan's biggest women's prison.
Now we have to change their diapers, help them eat. It feels more like a nursing home than a prison.
Yu is one of hundreds of Japanese women forced to sell their bodies. This is just one of the many roads that have been completely destroyed in Wajima City, making it nearly impossible for aid to get in. What is your current level of communication with North Korea?
This just into CNN. 6 Republicans in the House joined with Democrats voting to repeal the president's tariffs on Canada. It is a vote that Republican leaders fought hard to avoid. President Trump wrote this on Truth Social around the time of the vote, quote, any Republican in the House or Senate that votes against tariffs will seriously suffer the consequences come election time. We should note the resolution now heads to the Senate, where it is unlikely to have enough votes to overcome an expected veto from the president. However, it is yet another example that President Trump's trade war has quietly rattled even some of his staunchest loyalists. Well, you can now add Swiss skier Franjo van Almen to the pantheon of Winter Olympics legends. The 24-year-old announced himself at the Milan Cortina Games with his victory in the Super G. He wasn't done. Don Riddle is going to explain. I mean, what a run for him.
Absolutely. Take a bow, Franjo van Almen, who has put on a masterclass at these games. The Swiss skier has been making his Olympic debut in Bormio, and he has made history as well. As you say, Jim, the 24-year-old took gold in the Super G on Wednesday, adding to the 2 other gold medals he won in the downhill and the team combined. Van Almen is now the first alpine skier to win 3 gold medals in the same Olympics since 1968, and only the 3rd overall to do it, and I think it's fair to say he's struggling to find the words to describe it.
At the moment, it's still hard to say, because I'm really trying to realize what's actually happened or is happening in the last few days. So yeah, I can say looking back on my first Olympic Games, I think I'm looking back on perfect races for me. Everything just came together a bit. And I can also say that maybe the luck of these games was a bit on my side.
You make your own luck, though. It was a terrific day for the American women in the moguls as the freestyle skier Elizabeth Lemley took gold, joined alongside her on the podium by Jaylin Kauf, who also took a silver medal at the last Olympics in Beijing. We got a new Olympic record in the speed skating as the USA's Jordan Stoltz took gold in the 1,000 metres. The 21-year-old was already the world record holder, and he ended a long period of Dutch dominance at the Games. Stoltz is the first American man to win this event since 2010 in Vancouver. Jim?
American Chloe Kim, she's looking to make some snowboarding history?
Yeah, you know, it's really hard to believe that Kim is still only in her mid-20s because, remember, she burst onto the scene as a 17-year-old at the Pyeongchang Olympics, making history then as the youngest woman ever to win gold in the halfpipe. She defended her title in Beijing 4 years later, and now she's trying to make history again as the first snowboarder, male or female, to win gold in 3 consecutive games. And I'd say, so far so good. She topped the qualifying session at Livigno Snowpark and will go for gold again on Thursday. She's been reflecting on how her Olympic journey has changed her.
As I've gotten older, I've started to learn more about myself and kind of what my boundaries are and what I'm capable of doing. Maybe like sometimes I need to learn when to back off, and I think taking a lot of time off has been really important for me and my mental well-being. It's been a really beautiful journey to learn more about myself and kind of discover who I am as a 25-year-old now.
And before I hand it back to you, Jim, a quick mention of the men's ice hockey competition, which is now underway. And it's significant, the first time that NHL players have been at the Games since 2014 in Sochi, in 2018 and again in 2022. Disputes over costs for travel, insurance, accommodation and also squabbles about scheduling meant that the league's players stayed home. It remains to be seen how much of a difference the NHL players will make. The Italian team doesn't have any NHL players. Sweden's team is packed with them, but it was 2-2 late in the second period when they met on Wednesday. But Sweden had too much in the end. Ultimately, they won that game 5-2. But it is great to have all of the best hockey players back in the Olympics.
Don Riddell, thanks so much. Don't forget curling.
Oh, no.
Thanks so much, all of you. I'm Jim Sciutto in Washington. You've been watching The Brief. Please do stay with CNN.
Africa is moving